Welcome to this week's edition of Scotland Shop on the Sofa, and tonight I am delighted to welcome the Piper chef all the way from Switzerland, Damian Bell. So welcome Damian, and this month we are focusing on all things Highland Games and pipe bands as part of the magnificent Piping Live event that took place last week. So we're delighted to be joined by yourself, also known as the Piper chef. So how did you get into piping? Were there any fellow pipers in your family? Were you all musicians? What inspired you?
Well, my dad was a piper, but he never really became proficient at it. My first recollection of piping was when I went down Stirling Shopping Centre with my mum, and there was like a man busking there. I must have been about 5 years old, and I said, "I want to do that," and she said, "No, you don't." It's loud and it's very hard to learn. Oh no, I want to learn. So eventually, I'm very determined, you see. So eventually, she found me a teacher, a guy called Larry Georgeson, who was he'd been a pipe major with the Glasgow and Strathclyde Highlanders, and he was one of the founding members of the Stirling Pipe Band. Mm-hmm. I don't think it was Stirling and District at the time. He eventually metamorphosed into, I think, Stirling and District. Anyway, but he had a group of learners, and I was one of them. And he followed the old College of Piping books, and we all sat around the table and learned the movements and the tunes, and some of us progressed on, some of us didn't. So when I ended up going to Fort Augustus Abbey School. He was actually the caretaker at a school just outside of Stirling in Bridge of Allen called Beaconhurst. Mm-hmm. And it was at that school where he used to have the lessons. And anyway, so some continued on, and they founded the band in Stirling. I moved on. I went up to Fort Augustus Abbey School, and Fort Augustus at the time had an armed cadet force. And as part of that, they had piping instructors who used to come down from Fort George and teach as bagpipes. So we had people like Angus MacDonald and that would come down to the school and teach us. So we've got some very good instruction. And on the back of that, we had a kind of mini band. But I also would go through to Lochaber and play with Lochaber Pipe Band as well. Mm-hmm. And they had a guy there who was called Murdo MacLeod, who was the pipe major. And he would take a wee band from Fort William down to the various competitions. And they did not too badly. I think Lochaber's still going, although I don't think they compete anymore. But then from there, I went and joined Strathclyde University, and I joined the Glasgow and Strathclyde University Officers Training Corps. Mm-hmm. And it was really just to play bagpipes. And we got paid at the weekends a soldier's rate, for playing bagpipes. It was great.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah. And we got flown all around the world playing at different events and tattoos, mm-hmm. and we played at the Windsor Tattoo. We played at tattoos up in the north of England. And we also had the opportunity to play at the Edinburgh Tattoo as well, which we did as the OTC, Officers Training mm-hmm. Corps. It was kind of Scotland. So we would split that with the various other OTCs in Scotland. So you play as a kind of a combined group. Yeah, so did that twice. That was very exciting. I was a young lad playing at the Edinburgh Tattoo. And it was at the time when it was all military bands. Mm-hmm. It was a military show, really. It wasn't like it is now. It's more of a kind of American show with dancers and different things going on. It's also good. I'm not condemning either. They're both good. Then let me think. After that, I joined after university. I played with Liberton Pipe Band for a wee while in Edinburgh, because I was living in Edinburgh at the time. Then I moved down south, and I played with various bands down in the London area. I played with Pride of Moray. I played with Nottingham Forest. I played with Waltham Forest. I played with also Reading Scottish, who I still play with sometimes as a guest player.
Yeah. Wow. So how do you choose a pipe band then? Do you choose them by, oh, they're a really good band, or they're really nice people, or does it just who's closest?
I think it's a bit of a combination. Pride of Moray was definitely who's closest, because they practiced just about 10 minutes from my house, so it kind of made sense to go there. And then Reading Scottish, they weren't too far away either, so that was always an easy one to go to. But the Reading Scottish crowd, I mean, they are just lovely people, and you just want to play with them. It's great fun, and they get some fantastic gigs. You play at all these international festivals all over Europe, so it's you get to do some traveling and have some fun. It's not just all about competition.
No. And so, for someone like me, and probably a lot of our listeners who don't know, what happens when a pipe band meets up? So you go to practice. So, we have visions of you all playing at once and marching, and so what happens?
Well, so a normal band practice would be probably the first half. You'd have the drummers separate from the pipers, and the drummers would all sit around with their music on pads, just drumsticks and pads. So a drum pad, something like this. Yeah, and then you sit with the drumsticks, which is something like this, and you play the drums around the table. And we would do the same with our practice chanters. Yeah, and we would all sit around the table with our music, and the pipe major would perhaps have new tunes that we want to learn for a competition or for an event, and then we would have all the tunes sent out to us before the practice. And the idea is that you come ready, so you come to practice only really to play together, and then at some point the notes, they're put aside. You have to learn it by heart. You can't. You don't see pipe bands playing with music before them. Like brass bands, just doesn't happen. So you have to learn everything by heart. So that's part of the process. And then, so that would be the first half of the practice. Second half would then be, you would get your instruments out, as we would call them, but that's your pipes. You would go and get the pipes out, and we'd probably spend about 15-20 minutes just tuning up, making sure that we're all in tune together. And that would normally take the tone and tune off the pipe major's chanter.
Okay.
And then he would we'd all stand in a circle, and he would make sure that we were all more or less in tune. And as he was doing that, we'd play a few simple sets that everybody knows before we try anything a bit more difficult. And then maybe the drummers would come in towards the end of the practice, and we'd all play together, and we'd march up and down the hall or outside, depending where it was being held. And then at the end of practice, the pipe major might give us a debrief on how he thought it'd gone, and any information about what was coming up and what was expected for the weekend. Normally, you're practicing for something that's coming up at the weekend.
Yeah.
So that's pretty typical, so.
Yeah. And so now you're a member of Scotch Watch Pipes and Drums. So can you tell us a bit more about
Scotch Watch is a band I set up. We're based in Switzerland, and the idea is to have a competing pipe band, 4B, who maybe go to at least one or two competitions a year in Scotland. And in order to do that, we obviously have to raise some money. So we do like street parades, we do concerts, we do private gigs as well, birthday parties, weddings, anniversaries, anything really, just to to make some money to pay for our trips to Scotland. That's the idea. Obviously, it's been a bit difficult for pipe bands. A lot of pipe bands have gone by the wayside in the last 2 years. It's been very difficult. We haven't been any different to that, really. It's been quite a difficult time for us. But hopefully next year we'll manage to get a bit more practice in, and we'll be able to come back to Scotland. This year we didn't manage to go because of finances. Just didn't have the money to go. We had no gigs for 2 years. So there was no way of paying to go. So we're always looking for new players to join us. We expand our catchment area, not just Switzerland. I think it's the whole of Europe, really. We've had people from all over the world really playing with us, but it's been mainly Swiss, Germans. At one point, the whole drum corps was French. So we had various different languages going on in the band. We had players from Argentina, Uruguay, people from all over the place. I mean, the idea is really to give anybody an opportunity to play in a competition who's got a reasonable standard. So we don't just take anybody on, but we like to give everybody an opportunity. That's the idea. And we have workshops, maybe 2 or 3 workshops throughout the year, where we try and get all the competing band members to come together, as well as the people who play. We have players as well who play just for the events or in the street band, and they come together, and we fly in instructors from Scotland, and we make a weekend of it. And during the day we practice. So we'll practice Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and on the Saturday night we try and do a ceilidh, where we invite all of our friends and families, and they all have to pay a ticket entrance, and that ticket entrance goes towards paying for the workshop, but also some extra goes towards us helping to fund going to Scotland. That's the idea. Yeah.
Fantastic. And so if I wanted to take up the pipes, then what advice would you give me? How would you tell me to get started?
First thing is make sure you really want to do it. That is the key.
It's hard
because it's quite a commitment. I wouldn't say it's as hard as you want to make it, and you also have to be able to dedicate time to it. So you're looking at a regular practice of maybe an hour a day. And that will get you up the ladder. And if you can find a good tutor as well, somebody who can tutor you. And you can find tutors online now. You don't need to have somebody down the road who plays bagpipes. You can find somebody who's very good, who's going to take the time to tutor you. That's what you need. But equally, you could take lessons. You could go to workshops. The National Piping Centre in Glasgow, they organise both workshops. They have private tutors. It's a very good starting point, the National Piping Centre. So, but equally, you could, if your budget doesn't stretch to that, you could try and find a local pipe band. You'll be very surprised. There are pipe bands all over the world.
Oh yeah, it's unbelievable, isn't it?
We have 32 registered. By registered, I mean they're registered with the Royal Scottish Pipe Band Association in Scotland. 32 registered pipe bands in Switzerland.
Yeah.
And some of them are very good. So that's another alternative, is to go and find a local pipe band, join them, and I'm not going to say you're going to get free tuition, but you're going to get tuition of a good standard. Yeah, it's always a good idea to do that.
Yeah, we have our local pipe band, Dunn's Pipe Band, and yeah, the standard is incredible. Yeah, they have a fantastic pipe major, and it's very impressive. As a not very musical person, I am always deeply impressed. So going from pipes, so when you play the pipes, obviously you said you do street events, you do parades, you do that kind of thing. Is there Highland Games in Switzerland as well then, or?
Well, we do have various Highland Games in Switzerland. There's about 5 actually.
Yeah.
They don't all have piping at them.
Okay.
Some are just they have the strongman events. They have tug of war. They have tossing the caber. They might even just have some Highland dancing competitions going on. They don't always have solo piping events at them. Normally there's there's a Swiss Pipe Band Association, and they nominate a pipe band every year to try and organise a Swiss national pipe band meeting, and that normally coincides with a Highland Games. And for the last, I think, probably 10 years, it's been up in St. Gallen, which is in East Switzerland, in a place called Aptville. So they call it that Aptville Highland Games, and that's been quite popular. Yeah. And they get maybe 5 or 6 pipe bands that compete, and they maybe get 200-300 pipers that come along.
Wow.
Yeah, and they have a full program of solo piping on the Sunday. So the Saturday is the Highland Games with typical pipe band competition, and then on the Sunday they have the solo competitions. And they're all it's fairly well attended, to be honest. It's good.
Yeah. It's incredible, isn't it, that all goes on? And
there are throughout Europe there are more Highland Games, so there's quite a few Highland Games up in Belgium and Holland. Throughout Germany there's Highland Games as well.
Yeah.
So being on the continent, you can just jump in your car and you can drive to these places.
Yes.
I
feel a ScotlandShop tour of Europe coming on.
Yeah, you should.
Oh, definitely.
You do very well.
Well, it's such fun. I mean, we've been to a lot of the American ones and Canadian ones, and they're just huge. It's just incredible. The passion there for everything Scottish.
Yeah. Well, it never ceases to amaze me how many events that I play at, and it's a Scottish event organised in Switzerland, and I might be the only Scottish person there that's Swiss. And they all dress up. They all go out and they put their kilt on, and they look the full business. It's great.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. So does the Scotch watch? What tartan do they wear?
So we wear the black watch tartan.
Okay.
The reason for that is it's an easy tartan for everybody to find.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
It's a bit run of the mill, but it's an easy tartan to find.
It's a classic.
For competitions, if somebody's flying in from the States or from somewhere, we can always find them a black watch kilt to wear. That's not a problem. Whereas if you've got some obscure tartan, it's a bit more difficult.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And what about yourself then? Do you have a favourite tartan? Do you have?
Belle of the Border, of course.
Yes. I did wonder if that's so beautiful. Yeah.
It's quite bright. I like it. It's a bright tartan. I don't actually have a kilt in it yet. But
we'll have to sort that for you.
You can sort that out for me.
Yeah, no, it's such a beautiful tartan. It's one of our favourites. Well, obviously we're from the borders, so
okay.
It has particular significance to us. But very nice. Good. And so, tell us. I haven't even asked you how you ended up in Switzerland. How did that come about?
It's to do with piping as well, really. My brother Gordon, he's been based in Switzerland for the last 30 odd years. Working in IT for some of the big Swiss banks, and he's also a musician. He had his own rock group, and he organised a Hogmanay party in Zurich, and he invited me over on the pretense of going skiing. And he said, "Oh, could you bring your bagpipes and your kilt?" I said, "Oh, why?" He said, "Oh, well, I've got this little concert for Hogmanay, and I was wondering if you could play at the bells for us." I thought, okay. So at that event, I met my wife.
Oh, wow. Oh, what
Yeah,
a great story.
she
So you
liked
had
she liked
to.
the man in the kilt.
It is a great thing though, the pipes, isn't it? I have a friend who's a great piper, and the amount of weddings and events he attends to play the pipes, he gets invited to a lot of places. So.
It is. It's a door opener. You end up going to places that you would never ever get invited as a normal, ordinary citizen. You know, it's phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Very true.
Yeah. So you're also a pizza chef, which resulted in your piping chef title, I presume. So do pizza and piping go well together? How did that happen?
Well, always been involved in catering. So my dad had a big catering concern in Britain, you know, so we did staff restaurants, we had school meals, we did hospital meals, and I was always involved in the business. And when he sadly he passed away, I then looked at a name for setting my own business up, and of course I was a piper and I'm a chef. And in the European language, chef also means boss.
Yes.
So it's a bit of a play in words because for a somebody speaking a European language, and it's pretty much chef in German, chef in French, normally means boss.
Mm.
The hedging.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a bit of an arrogant thing, but it's the piper boss, if you like, you know. So
Yeah.
a bit of a play in words, but also it's really. I mean, I'm a chef and I'm a piper, so the two go hand in hand. Then during the pandemic, I was looking at what do people like to eat, and people like to eat pizza.
Yeah.
So I got myself enrolled in l'Accademia dei Pizzaioli,
Uh-huh.
the school for pizza chefs in Italy. And I
Yeah.
went down there and trained and became a pizza chef, a pizzaiolo.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So any haggis in your pizza then out there in
Well,
Switzerland?
if you go on my pizzaiolo Damiano, because my stage name for pizza is Damiano.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pizzaiolo Damiano. Because in my village in Dunblane there were lots of Italians, and
Uh-huh.
they always my nickname there was Damiano.
Oh, okay.
So it's a bit of a
Destiny.
throwback to my childhood as well. So, but
Uh-huh.
a lot of people do know me as Damiano. They don't know me as Damien. Some people
Uh-huh.
know me as Damian. It just depends which language you're speaking.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a good name for the business. So Pizzaiolo Damiano is the name of the pizza business that I've set up. It's all under my Piper Chef business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I've got this kind of brand as Pizzaiolo Damiano.
Yeah.
And I've got a little pizza trailer, and the trick with it is I make everything fresh.
Mm-hmm.
I make my own dough. I stretch my own dough. I've got proper pizza ovens that I cook it in. All the ingredients that go on the toppings are all made fresh to order as well. You know, so it's genuinely a fresh Italian pizza that you get, which is becoming less and less common.
Yes. Yes.
Because a lot of people just buy an off the shelf product and then sell that to you because it's a lot easier to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So we get the real thing from you.
You get the real thing from me.
So to go, because I'm quite nosy then, to go to the Academia, do you need to, is that a long course, or I'm intrigued, I'd quite like to go and be an expert police.
You can do a 3-year course with them.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Which would then give you the equivalent of, I suppose, a Bachelor of Arts in Italian cuisine. You know, so it's a proper chef's training. I've already done a chef's training in Glasgow when it was the old Glasgow Polytechnic. So I've done my City and Guilds. You know, so I didn't really need to do it to that level. But the pizza training, they had this course. It's just a couple of weeks that you can go and do.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you have to go down there and do the practical. The exam was in Italian. There was a practical exam, a theory exam, and a written exam, all in Italian. So
you speak Italian?
I can speak chef language in Italian.
Chef language. Typing language and chef language.
I wouldn't say my Italian's not fluent, but it's not bad. I mean, I did do language at university as well. I did French and Spanish at university, and then I ended up living in the German-speaking part of Switzerland and making pizza. So
yeah, it's an eclectic lifestyle. But piping remains constant throughout.
Yeah, piping's been a fair constant throughout life. Yes. Yeah.
So we better finish off then and tell anyone who wants to join the Scotch Watch, where shall they go to find you?
So we do have a website. That's the best place to contact us. It's scotchwatch.org, and there's all the information on what we do. You've got all of our music online. You can have a look at that. It's got our practice details on there as well. And if anyone's interested in going to the Worlds next year, please contact us.
Yeah, so that's your goal, to get the band back to the Worlds next year.
That's our goal, to get back to the Worlds next year. We'll see how we get on. We've obviously got to raise the money, get out there doing some concerts, get practicing. But that's the goal.
That's the goal. Very good. Well, thank you very much for joining me. I really enjoyed hearing you.
Thank you, Anna. It was great to finally meet you.
Good to learn all about piping. Thank you.
Thank you very much.